Shall we begin? Hi, everybody. Everyone wave. Nice to see you all here. Wave at each other. You can look at the gallery view. Take a look at everybody, waving to each other, connecting. Hello, hello. You can try all the different greetings that are possible, right? This way, you know. Any way to connect and to realize we're all together. And to have a wonderful opportunity to be together and to access self. So some of you were introduced to a part, those who couldn't get in to the original meeting. We upgraded it, but initially some people, when it reached the 100 limit, were sent a notice that they couldn't get in, so they had a part that was triggered. Yeah, so welcome to all parts. All parts are welcome. Self is welcome. And we can begin with that part. Others who arrived early, we can begin with everyone can recognize the part that wants to learn about self. Yeah, so let's begin away. Can you find that part of you that wants to know yourself? See where it is, where it's located in or around your body. Just be aware of it. Ask it for some space so you can be aware of it in a location, shape, size, color, place, felt sense. And now see if you can find kind of a polarized part, which is the part that is the doubting mind, or a part that isn't sure you're going to get it, or is concerned that other people will get it and you won't get it. Some kind of emotional part that, yeah, see if you can find that part, the doubting part, the one who has concerns, and yeah, where's that located? What's the felt sense of that? So the part, just feel both, the part that wants to get it, the doubting part, or the part that's concerned you might not get it. And then simply, who's aware of those two parts? So just shift, open, and feel who or what is aware of the part that wants to get it, and the doubting part, of the concerned part, the worried part that doesn't feel like it may be good enough, smart enough. Who's aware? Where are you aware of those two parts from? So aware of the contents, the learning part, the part that wants to learn, part that's concerned or doubting, is the contents. The shape, size, and color, felt sense of those parts. But then where are you aware of those from? A boundary, a point of view? Or is there more of a and pervasive, open mind, open heart, all-inclusive, interconnected, non-thought-based feeling of being, of not being that self, not being that thinker, that worrier, being aware of those as parts of you, and then beginning to feel not just toward thoughts, contents, parts, body, but beginning to rest back curiously with awareness to feel
Hello?
where are you aware from.
We're experiencing some choppiness from your end.
Okay.
Looks like your audio is going in and out a little bit and the video is weak. Maybe we
Audio.
should switch to the backup.
Is it audio and video?
Yeah, it's both.
Mhm.
See if it's still happening with me off. I just got off.
All right, let's just see now. I just switched something here. So let me know if it happens again.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay. And then I'll switch if it stays choppy. So we're just beginning almost immediately by jumping to see where is this feeling of being a parts-based view, of feeling like you're a small self or a manager that's located usually in your head looking out of your eyes, trying to understand and know, right? And then that would be observer part look and goes to thought and goes to emotion and goes to your breath, becomes the observed. And then we're going to be curious about what is that like? What is that content like? And what is the context like? What is the feeling of opening and feeling this kind of spacious and pervasive feeling of self? Yeah. So welcome everyone. That's just thought we'd just dive right in and see where you all are. So we're going to do a bunch of simple experiential exercises today. And the goal is going to be know thyself, yeah, which is one of the most ancient wisdom in ancient Greece and in all the traditions, East and West. Know thyself, who am I? What am I? And we're going to explore particularly where am I? Where am I aware from? So this self that we're going to explore is not the small self. So just to start with the way we're going to learn. And
Loch, I think we need to go to backup. Looks like it's gotten a little worse. All right, Loch, would you go ahead and mute the other one? It looks like you're gonna echo a little. Oh, yeah, there's the echo.
okay, how's that?
Let's see. Everyone, will you give us a wave if this sounds better? Go ahead and speak a little bit more, Loch. Let's see, your
Okay.
video looks better already.
Video looks better. So I'm
Yeah.
on my phone. I'm moving from self. So this is the view from myself. This is the view from my part. And then this is the view from the from the witness, mindful witness. And this is the view from the camera.
I
Okay.
think that's much better so far.
better?
Thank you, Loch.
Okay. All right. Apologizing about the there we go. Okay. So just rolling with the feeling of different parts that may have judgments or opinions, and finding that which can be with the judging parts, the uncomfortable parts, that can bear the unbearable parts. Yeah. So we're appreciate your patience in working with this these technical difficulties. So now will I be able to share? I won't be able to share until we glitch. Maybe we'll do the PowerPoints afterwards. Okay. We'll see if we can get that up and running. But right now, let's do a sense of feeling that that you
Hey,
have.
Loch,
Yes.
would you stop your video on your second screen for the moment? And I'm gonna spotlight your main one for everyone so they can see you.
Okay. Okay. How's that?
All right, that should do it for everyone.
right.
Great.
Okay. Okay. So two of the main parts we're going to work with today that are primary in terms of how to shift from parts-based view to sense of self is to feel that we're aware of the manager part as the primary part that is the most self-like part. And then we're going to be aware of our body as a part. So rather than looking from our body or from our small self or small mind, we're going to feel that there's this spacious, pervasive sense of self that's invisible and intelligent and knowing, but isn't thought-based. So one of the first ways is to work with those polarities of within our mind, yeah? To work with this sense of one way of beginning to start with the thought-based thinker. And then when we locate that, to ask for some space and assume that the you that's asking for space is not the self, but is most likely another part. So then we're going to open up to be aware of that observer part. So the three main self-like parts that most of us operate from that we feel are ourself is, one is a mindful witness, which is not our ego center looking out of our eyes, but a detached witness that's usually in a point of view or a meditator that can be aware of a part or parts within us, but it's got too much space. It's too detached. It's located still in a one location rather than being spacious and pervasive. Yeah, so we'll work with that and just see whether that's where you tend to go when you unhook or unblend from being identified or blended. The second one is another part that is more like a kind, smart therapist part, or a kind, smart, compassionate part, or empathetic part with a small c compassion. So kind of the part of you that when you see a kitten or a puppy or a baby goes, oh, isn't that sweet? Oh, I love that. So it's part of our human condition, but it is a part. It feels more compassionate. It has these qualities of curiosity, but it's still a very human part of our psyche. Yeah, so you'll start to feel that and then open up to be aware of that part as part of you. And then the third most common self-like part is kind of subtle body energy. So some people are very interconnected and have a strong emotional, subtle energy, kind of highly sensitive person style. So when they feel toward their parts or toward other people they're with, they kind of blend and start to take on the energy of the other person in a way that's that if the other person's upset, they kind of take that energy on as empathy. And so, like, how many people would say that when you walk into a room of people that you can feel as you scan the room if somebody's upset or if somebody's depressed or angry or worried? As you look at somebody, you feel them. Yeah. So how many people would say that they're kind of that type? And some people have that ability, but don't always get caught in it. But that's important, that that's not called self-energy. So some people call that self-energy, but it actually is subtle body energy. And there's a study that was done by Tanya Singer, who showed that people who work with other people who are very empathetic and merge and take on the energy of others, it can lead to burnout. So she distinguished this movement to the difference between empathy and compassion with a capital C. So you can go to compassion with the small c and be in your kind of a little more detached part. That's still a therapist part or kind part, or kind of your highest human manager feeling. Or you can go to a detached witness view, which is a little less feeling. It has insight and acceptance of things as they are, but it's a little more mental and a little more mindful. Yet very mindful, little too much mind. So those three we'll notice as we shift and unblend from this first manager, which is listening and trying to understand what I'm saying and categorizing. It's a helpful part. Often one of the ego committee, the thinker, but the key is to move beyond I think, therefore I am. So that thinker, that manager, that ego function has become, as we've developed, our sense of self. And most psychological systems and even preliminary practices in spiritual traditions, meditative traditions, work with that thinker and then go to either a mindful witness point of view, or drop into subtle body with something like chanting and mantra, dancing, singing will drop you out of your thinker small self and into your body. Yeah, and we'll play with that, see what that's like. And then the other halfway point that is a self-like part is this mindful witness, or this kind therapist part, or kind, smart, compassionate, or empathetic part. Yeah. So let's try this shift. And what we're going to do is we're going to locate the first self-like part, which is the small self, which is the thinker, the ego function that's become an ego identity, the main learner, listener. We're going to find that, ask for some space, and then observe that, and then find that which is aware, open beyond that. And then we're going to come back to begin to feel what self is like, which is a little bit of a multiplicity of all three of those. So it's spacious, but not stuck in space. It's not caught in a witness protection program. Spacious, but then also space turns into energy. So then it is interconnected and feeling, but it's not subject-object merged energy. It's this spacious, pervasive self-essence turns into self-energy, and then that feels like these natural qualities of curiosity and compassion with a big C feel like we're both supported from something greater than our small self. Then we feel like there's a interbeing, like a interconnection that we can be aware of a part or another person from this beingness or self that's a presence. And then there's a connection, so that from self-essence, self-energy, there's a feeling of being the same, that we're not just energetically connected, but as if we're connected on the level of awareness and then energy. So we'll start to fine tune this, and you can get a feel for it. So let's begin with just starting where you are, which is one of the most important things, is to identify the first self-like part, which is a part or a committee of parts that are the learners, the thinkers. They're very positive and they have self-essence and they have self-energy, but they're small, thought-based, local, dualistic ways of organizing our identity that limits us and cannot bear a full emotional life because they're small, they're thought-based, and their helpful part. We're not trying to get rid of the ego. We're not trying to kill it or fight it. We're just returning it to its natural role and unburdening it from doing the role of self by allowing it to relax and just be a helpful function, just like our hands can be used when we need them, but when we don't need them, we can let them drop onto our lap or on our sides. And same with that thinking function. We can let thinking drop, the thinker relax, and find out this kind of alert, awake presence, interbeing, that's aware and could move your hand and could use thought if needed. And then sensation and thought will just come and go. And if a part arises, it'll arise to this self rather than take us over. And we're going to feel that today. So we're going to start from this common way we walk around with this organized small self as trying its best. We're going to shift to this sense of self-essence and self-energy and self-leadership. And then when a part arises, we'll feel when it takes us over or kind of possesses us or blends with us. And then we'll, no big surprise, just re-recognize and just learn this kind of dance of blending and unblending, identification, returning home, and including. Yeah. Okay. So that's the premise and the hypothesis. And now let's do an experiment. So let's see whether you can find the thinker, right? I think, therefore I am. So just find, make yourself comfortable. You can close your eyes or open eyes, whatever you like. And find this one who's listening, the one who's been listening, the one who's trying to understand, the looker, the hearer, the one who chose to sign up for this course today. And just see whether you can be aware from there, but now see if you can be aware of that part of you and locate it in an area. So it has a shape, a boundary, a felt sense. So just notice that part as best you can, and then ask that part if it'll give you a little space so you can actually feel and see it more clearly. So just ask that thinker part, that learner part, if it can give you some space. And then just feel that opening up and being aware a little more clearly of where that part's located, what it feels like, what its boundary, its concerns are, what its kind of role is, what its worldview or its kind of organizing felt sense of how it's operating. And then just notice it's, and just thank that part for all its hard work. So this is important. So rather than getting rid of it, rather than thinking it's less than, rather than thinking it's wrong or it's a false self, just thank this part that's been trying to be the self for all its hard work, and just let it know that you're here with it. And just see if it's able to be aware of you being here. So now let's see whether that you that was aware of it is also a part. Yeah, so you're aware of that thinker part, that learner part, and now you are aware of it. So just feel, where are you aware from? What's the sense of location of that? And just assume that you can find it maybe even a little less clear, maybe more vague, whether it's energetic, whether it's kind of a meditative point of view, or it's kind of a relational side to side, that when you went space, did you drop? Did you go to the side and look? Did you look from above? Where are you looking from? Where do you aware of that part from? And just assuming it's a self-like part, just ask that part that's aware of the thinker if it can give you some space. And then open so that you can be aware of that part as well. So then feel as if that self-like part had a location, because now you're more open and feeling back into invisible, boundless, timeless, open, space that finds a kind of effortless presence that's always already awake, that's greater than yourself, and yet essentially a ground of boundless field of presence that's equally inside and out, that's open, contentless, all around. And because it's a awareness-based knowing, it's just alert without needing to go to thought, to feel that that's both equally inside and out, spacious and pervasive, interconnected. So it's aware of that observing part and of the thinker part. And just open, if any other parts come up that are protective, or just ask, notice them, and then just ask them if they'll just kind of wait or step aside and see what the result is like. See if they'll step into a waiting room or a balcony. And then just open a little further to see if there's a boundary until you find that you go beyond thought, beyond sensation, beyond energy, and subtler. So alert, contentless, self-essence, invisible, fearless, and just notice, does this, which you're aware from, have a boundary? Does it have a limit? Does it have any worry or fear? Just this dimension. Does it need thought to be aware? And then notice that awareness-based knowing is, notice its connection to that observing part and the thinking part. Notice how its essence is inherent within it, arising as it. So there's a kind of a interconnected field, like an ocean of awareness arising as the observing part, arising as a thinking part. And just notice these two parts can be aware of this self-essence that arises as self-energy. And just feel what it's like when you just feel this interbeing sense of rest. Nowhere to go, nothing to fix. Just befriending and being with these parts, appreciating, feeling a sense of unconditional love. No conditions, just interconnected, open-minded, open-hearted presence of self from which you're alert without going to thought, resting without going to sleep. Just feel those qualities that arise naturally from the silence, space, and stillness. Feel the aliveness and feel the awareness of that part, the observing part, appreciating the thinking part if it's needed, and if maybe it's resting, letting it know that they're all part of the team and important, but that you're in self-leadership when you're aware from here. So what's this like? So you can have, if anyone would like to stay here, stay home. So during this whole time, you can stay here, and the key is to familiarize yourself with yourself. Yeah, the Tibetan word for meditation is often translated familiarize. So just getting to know self, being self, and then feeling and knowing from self, and including everything, welcoming everything. And then feeling if a part arises, it can be welcomed. If you get blended with it, just learning to return and training to remain. Just a process of familiarization. So if anyone would like to type in a word or two, or into the chat. What do you notice about self as you look back? Such deep rest. So if you have a sleepy part, it just means that that's a natural tendency to go to thought or to go to sleep. So just be aware of the sleepiness as a part, or the sleepy part. There's a sense of amor, trust, open sky, calm and grounded, constant, blend, recognize, unblend, reblend, and then maybe befriend. So going in and out. So there's a flow in and out. There's also a going in and out of identification. Peaceful. Something moves my body, my breath. So it's almost like you're being breathed. Open space. And then we're going to learn to train to remain. The train to remain is hanging out as this without going back to thought for a second opinion. So learning to familiarize is training to remain is the first. Percolating aliveness within and around stillness. Peaceful, restful, inclusive, interconnected, welcoming. Whole and pervasive, compassionate toward parts. So that compassion is a certain kind of compassion, and I want you to see whether you can feel the difference between compassion, empathy, compassion with a small c, or empathy, which is very nice, very positive, and the compassion that feels same. Oh, we're the same. Oh yeah, unconditional love. Oh, nothing needs to change. I'm here with you. So not just a subject-object compassion. Strange to not know what it is. Yes. So it's strange to not use thought to be able to use words or to use the knowing that we use for objects and information. So it's a new not knowing that knows. So there's a knowing from thinking, then there's a not knowing, then there's a not knowing that knows. That's like a feeling, awareness-based, alert, and then it knows itself, and then as itself, it knows that quality within parts and within the world and within things, and then it arises. Expansive, unbounded spaciousness, tenderness. So those two together are beautiful. Expansive, unbounded spaciousness, and then the U-turn of you are looking for the self, then self turns around and includes you. It becomes tender, open-hearted. And then the spaciousness, tenderness, and aliveness. So space, energy, and humanness. Yeah, those are the three. Space, energy, and matter. Aliveness, a relief to stop so the parts don't love being called small. So they think they're big, they think they're, and when they're big, so big and small are key, because the parts are trying to be you and be the one that is in charge, or the one that's the true you, or the a whole of you. And so they need to be seen as a part, or a subpersonality, or an observable, boundaried, unconditional love, a second of Christ consciousness, electric, non-judging. Is this what's called pure consciousness? Yeah. So there's pure awareness, and then when awareness joins with aliveness, it's pure consciousness. So awareness plus self-essence, self-energy is pure consciousness, or being, or self, or awake consciousness, and then it arises as human. So like an ocean of awareness that rises as the particular parts, thoughts, feelings, imperfect human life that's essentially seeing from and being. So there's a quality of being embodied, yeah? So embodied, where's the ground of being? We're going to discover that the ground isn't physical and mental. Yeah, we're going to discover what is the ground. That's going to be one of the questions. Oh, that is what self-leadership's about. Yes. Mysterious, unknowable, infinite sea, feeling of deep, authentic inclusion of parts while not identifying with them, nor othering them in a new and welcome experience. So they're very much same. That's that experience of feeling that self is within parts, and yet there's a field of pure consciousness that's arising as parts, and then there's this intermediate interbeing that is the beingness that's also your body or your humanness, that you start to feel like layers of the accordion, from pure awareness to energy to presence to human vast silence, dancing energy, love, bliss, overseeing the parts from open-hearted awareness, both respectful to them and reminds that pure consciousness is in charge. Freedom to keep seeing from the different perspectives, and happy, welcoming. Maybe here. Okay, great, wonderful. So this is good to have these reports, because I think it starts to allow people to realize that it is a direct experience, and there is like a popcorn of people recognizing self, that it's not that far away, that it's not just for Olympic athletes of meditation, and yet, does anyone want to say, if you noticed, particularly kind of just so this is one of the themes, is to notice what you were calling self before, or those self-like parts that were either the mindful witness part, or the smart, kind, empathetic therapist part, or the energetic, subtle body merged energetic part that is like inner body presence, but it's not resourced with the pure awareness essence. It doesn't have the space or the big C compassion. Yeah. So anyone noticing that? So just start to notice those intermediate ways that you're in a halfway meditative state or meditative consciousness, which are subtle parts or self-like parts. Yeah. Yeah, feeling caretaker is what somebody's calling it. Yeah, so it's a caretaker part that has a feeling and has, nice caretaker, like toward a child and it's a very human, but it's a part, it's not self. And Yeah, so this is very important to really start to have that distinction between these two. All right, the part, the self-like part, and then self, which is inherent within self-like and within the parts. So there's multi-dimensional, so it's multi-dimensional. It has a unity and a particularity. It's interconnected, but there's a observer dimension to the consciousness. It's not spaced out and not knowing the self, and it doesn't have to form another part to be related as in relational. Yeah, so that's the unique paradox or multidimensional quality of self. Yeah, so someone says, I tend to choke up when I access self. Is that a feeling apart or self? So there is a kind of a almost a achy breaky heart, or a like a coming home feeling that could be really about self. It is from self, and it's allowing your body to feel choked up or tender-hearted, which is kind of that intermediate quality that comes from coming home to self. So just to say something again about this. So this is not, these are pointing instructions. So I'll just say this and then we'll do another exercise. So the way in this tradition, it's not a guided meditation. I'm actually talking from myself through my language system to your language system to yourself. And if we go too slow, it can be restful, but you can also kind of go into thought. So I'm speaking at the speed of awareness, and you don't need to hear everything. So this is the key. It's not about the words. It's just like blah, 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 space. And then notice space is alive and unified, interconnected, separate and interbeing. So they're just little pointers. Don't try to follow with your mind. The instructions are for awareness and for self as soon as you shift. So that's just a unique kind of learning style that that you'll hopefully get a sense of. Yeah. So let's try this next one. So again, we're going to work with the manager. The primary sense of self is the small self, the ego center, the managing committee, which sometimes has the judge and the commentator and the I think, therefore I am. That operating system is more important than even the other protectors or firefighters or exiles, because self has to go to parts. So we've got to find self to have self go to parts. So if we're going from self-like parts to parts, we can do some psychological work that can be helpful. But this ultimate possibility, potential, requires that you know yourself and are being yourself. And then parts respond in a very different way. And then you have the capacity to work with the more traumatized parts. And the main protector and the main manager, and the main self-like part is the ego manager, or the sense of self that we walk around in. And the premise here is that self-leadership is living an awake life, is living from self. And in fact, my sense is, having seen thousands of people, in order to grow up all the way at a certain time in life, around midlife or a little earlier, a little later, you have to wake up to self in order to continue to grow up. You can't, I've seen many people very successful, competent, they grow up very competent ego, very functional, all the ducks in a row, physical, mental, discipline, and then either there's a breakdown or flooding from the exiles, or they've even done, so those are that's what I call the intellectual bypass, right? Living from a mental, highly functional, cultural ego. Then there's a psychological underpass, which is just doing psychological work from the competent caretaking psychology. And then you can just do so much, but you're still working with within the battery of the psyche. Then, of course, there's the spiritual bypass, which is you just forget the whole parts-based system and try to just hang out in pure awareness or in mindful witnessing, and deny the sense of having these emotions and full human intimate experience. And then there's the rest stops of meditation, where you just kind of calm yourself and de-stress and then go back to a small ego. So none of these are the options, right? Intellectual overpass, psychological underpass, spiritual bypass, meditative rest stops are all temporary, subtle mind, subtle body solutions that give some benefit. But here we're saying there is this self, or this no self, awakened consciousness, interbeing, that not only can you be aware of, but aware as, and aware from, and aware that that is within all the other parts, and it has this greater capacity, and love and joy and these natural qualities arise. So it's not just the absence of suffering that you discover and the capability to be with suffering parts and heal, and then these flourishing of natural positive qualities is also what shows up by itself. So, all right, so let's do this next one and we can take a break after this, yeah? So this one is, again, one of the main functions of the committee when we're in this thought-based, I think, therefore I am, small constellation of consciousness, where we don't know yet that there's this subtler, pervasive, awareness-based self-essence, wake consciousness. We try to live from body, mind, thought-based, mini-me in the head, looking out of the eyes. And that system is always looking to solve problems, yeah? So it's always looking, scanning for danger, going to the past. Is there a match? Do I project worst case scenarios into the future? What's going on out there? Is there a problem that needs to be tended to be safe? What's going on in here? Oh my God, is there a problem I need to tend to? And so that ego function becomes this ego identity, and its main link is trying to solve a problem and always having, what's the problem? What's the solution? What's the problem? What do I do? What's wrong? So if you can relax that problem solver system, which is the linchpin to many of the committee of the ego managers, then you can become aware of what's here, who's here, the self that's spacious, pervasive, interconnected. When that relaxes, then you can be aware of it, as it, from it. So this is a way to get a felt sense. So much of this is to give you some simple tools to glimpse, to shift, and then you have to feel and know and abide and familiarize and include from this sense of self-essence or awake awareness, self-energy or simultaneous mind, and interconnected interbeing that includes and welcomes all parts. Yeah. So here's I'm going to give you these 4 little inquiries. And again, the inquiry starts with words, and you understand with your small mind what they mean, and then let go and let the inquiry open to space, or let that awake space open to notice what's here. So it goes from the thinker that understands the words to the interbeing, awake presence, open-hearted awareness that's aware, that isn't orienting by thought, isn't trying to solve a problem, but from this new capacity, you could deal with any issue, situation, problem. So it's not about bypassing any problem, it's letting the problem solver relax so that the new upgraded self-leadership can tend to any situation that arises, whether it's an issue, problem, situation, decision. Yeah? Okay, so here we go. Ready? So just stay with these 4 shifts of awareness. So again, so now don't look this way like you're watching Netflix at me. Yeah? I'm asking you to turn around and look back, open, down, and include, right? So your awareness will look that way. Drop back. Yes? So here's the inquiry series to discover self-essence, self-energy, self-leadership. So what's here now, just now, when there's no problem to solve? Just understanding from that problem solver the words, and then let the problem solver or that thinking committee rest. And then just notice with that space, that awareness, what's this? What's here now when there's no problem to solve? What's this feeling of alertness that isn't oriented toward a problem or toward thought? And what's it like to be aware of this that's here? And what's it like to be this, to rest as this that's here? When there's no problem to solve, just now. And just feeling, knowing. Feel into this which is invisible and non-thought based. That's more like a continuous intuition, spacious but alert. What's it like to rest, to be this? And now what's it like to be aware as this? And then from this. So even as you continue to rest back and open with no boundary, is there a boundary? Is there a limit? Do you need thought? 'To be alert, to 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 be al is there a sense of support from something greater? Is there a sense of a ground of being that's made of this awareness rather than thought? Or is there some sense that the contents come and go, but some sense that this doesn't come and go? And then what's it like to be aware as this and to be aware from this as an open-hearted presence, welcoming, to be aware of your body as a part of this self-essence, self-energy? What's it like to be aware from this? What's the relationship between awareness and aliveness? Is it kind of like an ocean of awareness that's made of the same presence? And what's it like to be aware of the aliveness, to be the awareness and the aliveness of your body, thoughts, parts, and the room behind you, above you, to the side of you, all around you? And just allowing all your sense doors to be open without needing to go to thought or create a managing part in order to be alert and hear. Interbeing. And if a thought goes by, just welcome it. If a part arises, welcome it. If you get caught back, if a part arises, sneaks up behind you, or drags you down to a more emotional part, just see if you can open and include. So noticing when you get blended, and just unblend what's here now, and include and welcome. So that there's this dance. So what's here now when there's no problem to solve? What's it like when you are this, as this? What's it like from this? What's the relationship to aliveness in your body, parts, feelings, emotions, and the world? From here, without having to create a small separate center. In order to be here and everywhere, interconnected field of loving, open-hearted presence. Notice if you feel any quality of freedom or okayness, well-being, unconditional love or support. So staying here, and let's hear a few reports, and then we'll take a 15-minute break. Safe, wondrous. So who asks for space when we're already blended? So a part usually asks for space when we're blended. So when we're blended, we're in a part, and then it's often the mindful part, like that says like, oh, I'm blended in a part. Could be a lot of self in that part, but are you aware of that part? Can you ask that part to give you space? You're usually not self yet. That's the key. You can't assume yourself. You could be, but you don't have to be. So safe wonders, is that what it means? The sense that there is no doer. So yeah, so the doer, no doer is just half of the solution. No doer means this doer, the thinker, the doer. There's no doer or no self, but then the key is you got to find out if there's no doer, no self, what's the new awake consciousness? Where are you aware from? What's that open-hearted awareness, true nature, nature of mind, presence, self with a capital S, that doesn't rely on the old doer. So then it's not no doer, it's not the old doer. So you can, once you discover being, you can do from being without creating a small doer or a small part-based manager. In the flow of life, noticed other parts, swirling vibrational energy right below my chest as if it were moving quickly upwards. Then background bliss, flown, loving, joyful, awake. Feel solid. Yeah, so there's something about when you go to this awareness, there's a ground quality, which is called ground of being, which when you feel into it, it's not like physical ground, it's actually safety of awareness-based self in the flow of life, aware as it is, blissful, aware from it, opening the eye, alarming. What are all these objects doing here? Yeah, so when you're in the pure awareness, if your eyes are closed, then you want to stay in pure awareness, then feel energy, and then notice objects. So this is one of the key frameworks is Stephen Hawking, the great physicist, said the universe is made of three things: space, energy, and matter or form. Yeah. So we're caught in matter and then energy of thought. And what we're doing is we're going to make space and awake space primary, then realize that the energies arising from it, and then it's interconnected with these patterns of energy called matter or form that are arising, but we're not projecting our mind onto the objects. We're feeling this interconnectedness. Neutral, no emotion, silence, non-being, not feeling love. Yeah, so there's a first stage of unhooking from conditioning that's neutral, and it's usually a kind of a mindful sense. And it's when that awareness is open enough, and then when it feels it's not separate or it's arising as this aliveness, there's what's called the inseparable pair of awareness and aliveness, or same taste. It's called sometimes that awareness and energy are the same. And that's where the shift from neutrality or observing or detached witness starts to feel interconnected. It's what the word emptiness means. Emptiness means interdependent. It means that there's no independent thing that's separate. Everything's interdependent. And that's the feeling of self essence that arises as self. Generous, flowing, inclusive. An impersonal holding, but separate from the part. What part is this? So that sounds like mindful witness. If it's impersonal, holding, but separate, that's the classical good description of mindful witness. So then you just notice that's a part, ask it for some space, open up, and then include that as a part. Something pushing me backwards. Yeah, there's some kind of falling back. It could be happening. No separation, all inclusive. Noticing many more parts now coming up from the last few weeks. Self is aware of all of them and acknowledging each one. Yeah, so ultimately, and we'll take a break now, but when you're in self and welcoming parts, you'll start to see that and feel that parts of you are getting the experience of this kind of compassionate, unconditional love. And they can stay underground or they can come up, but there's more space, and they immediately feel the new field of presence and self that is in the leadership role. So there's a different different experience. Yeah. So tender relief, well-being, isness, parts come and go. So parts come and go. That's the thing, is parts are welcome. Sometimes they need to be healed or they've been triggered, but mostly the real sense of self-leadership is parts are kind of resting and playing and around and start, once you have a relationship with them and have done some unburdening, the key is that when self-leadership is strong, you can live most of your day without getting taken over. The space isn't like what I've been taught. Feels like I'm somehow part of God. Yeah, so it's like spirit, part of this, what's been called spirit or awake consciousness, is part of something greater. There's something greater, which is essentially we're connected to or arising from, and then we're this sense of multidimensional. Okay, invisible, incomprehensible web of interconnection. Including the resistance, but not identified with it. Love the no problem to solve, help me shift immediately into more openness. Emptiness and interconnection, I'll say some more about that after we take a break. All right, so it's 30 minutes after the hour, wherever you are. So let's take a 15-minute break and meet back here. But wherever you go, see if you can make a transition from self-leadership, kind of resource with the source, learn to return as best you can. Let yourself know all parts are welcome, but that you're aware from a non-parts centered, interconnected flow consciousness, and just take a break, stay dropped and opened and included. Yeah, and see you in 15 minutes. Enjoy.
That last one was really good.
Hello. I'm going to try to use my other one. Holly, there?
Hi, Loch, I'm
Can you
here.
make me co-host on this one, the second one here, so I can do some video and
You are co-host on both accounts.
PowerPoints? Maybe.
Yes.
See if you
Yes.
can
Let me make sure it's working.
make me co-host on this other one here.
Yep.
Switch
You
me
should be
over.
able to share.
Holly, you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Holly, are you there? Can you come on as the speaker?
Here we go. I removed
Yes.
your spotlight. Can you see me now?
You're muted. You're muted. Lost her.
Give me just a second.
You were muted.
Can you hear me?
Can you make me?
Loch, can you hear me?
No. Oh.
They can hear
I
me.
don't have this. That's because can you make my other?
Yes, so both accounts are co-hosts and you should be able to share screen at any point.
Okay, I'm not, there I am. Is that me?
Mhm.
It looks like me, but it might be a self-like part. Okay, let's see. Is my sound okay, or is it,
You sound good.
okay, good. All right, so welcome everyone. Thank you for your patience and for all our technical way of being together. I mean, I'm really glad that you're all here, people from around the world, as we saw. And I just find this to be an amazing opportunity, both the time of the world and the time of technology meeting together, that especially with this particular kinds of approach, that it's always wonderful to be together and feel each other's presence and say hello and not have to socially distance. But since we're socially distanced, there's a real opportunity for you to look back within yourself and not rely on teacher or video or the entertainment value of it, but really to find a way to, whether you're watching it live or record it. I've had just such great reports, even of people who are in my online course that I'm doing, like a 12-week series I do every other week, and then there's peer groups every other week. And just to say, anybody who wants to join that, there's a new series coming up on Tuesdays, but even those who aren't able to join us for that 1 to 3 p.m. Tuesday series, they listen to it later, and then they practice in between. So this is the thing, is getting to know self, getting to know your parts, being willing to be with your parts as they arise, getting to know them, befriend them, but getting to know self, because you can't do self to parts unless you are the self. Otherwise, you're doing other psychological work, which has benefits, but this is the opportunity to really feel what has been described throughout the millennial in many cultures to be the most valuable discovery of human life, because it gives the freedom to be embodied and loving to yourself and your traumatic parts, and to each other, to be non-reactive, to be responsive, to begin to have be motivated from a compassionate heart, to be engaged with others in the world, and not just to be a couch potato, and not just in this approach. This is an approach that is designed for the householder or the apartment dweller or the yurt liver, no, whatever, wherever you live, not for a monastic, that small glimpses many times. And we're shifting our consciousness all day long, anyhow, no matter what we do. Did I freeze there for a minute? So we have the opportunity to just learn this new habit. It's a simple habit. At first, it's new. Some people, are here for the first time or trying to get this. And, this is traditionally taught, in the last 6 months of a 3-year retreat, in some gradual path. So if you don't get it, just stay with it. The primary way is there's different doorways of glimpses. There's different styles. I'm trying to use different learning styles and come from kinesthetic and visual and auditory and shifting out and dropping down. We're going to do different doorways. So often what I've found is if it doesn't work at first, just stay with it. Stay in a beginner's mind, an open heart, curious. And, often people are like, no, I don't know, maybe, huh? What? Oh, whoa, no. So that's the process for those who aren't getting it. Trust that it'll unfold. For those who are getting it, yeah, let's go. This is like life-changing, and everyone's welcome here as learners, and we're all gonna help each other to access this, which is so loving and so healing and so life-changing, that just getting a glimpse and learning to return, and the training to remain is abiding 1 second, 2 seconds, aware from it starts to change the neuronal networks in your brain, and starts really what I consider that awakening is the next natural stage of human development. That moving from small self to no self to awake consciousness or open-hearted awareness, or this big self. I don't want to say big S self, do I? but this greater interbeing, which is a word Thich Nhat Hanh uses, which I love, because it describes self-essence as pure awareness, to this interbeing and grounded being that includes everything and welcomes all. So that's just to encourage you that it is learnable, teachable, available, that self-essence, no self, whatever you want to call this, sense of awake presence is a different way of living. It's already installed, it's already available. The premise is, this is equally available to each of us as each of us. It's just a matter, it's not a matter of developing a skill of creating learning the piano or something, or learning a certain meditative technique. It's literally unhooking, letting go, surrendering, opening, discovering, uncovering, but it's letting go, not just letting go into the halfway not knowing or absence, but then letting the awareness, what's here when there's no problem to solve. It's the recognition, realization, abiding, being aware from, energetically, spaciously, including. And so it's a shift of mind and a shift of identity that is, that everyone finds through different doorways, and we're going to try a few more. So what we were doing this morning is or this afternoon or this evening, depending on where you are, is shifting from this thought-based self, or me, or I, or what we've learned culturally to be the self with a small s, which is the primary self-like part. And we opened to these other self-like parts, and then we open again and include. Now what we're going to do is we're going to drop. So for those who open up to the more spacious, pervasive, and now some people talk about the self is within, or there's a core self. So what we're going to do is we're going to unhook from this, or unblend, and drop deep within into the heart space, into the heart mind, and go into the awareness and the self-essence there that will then open up. It'll go through, kind of noticing the energy and then the space within that will open up and then include parts from there. So it can help those who like to drop within. Some people have a hard time dropping within because they bump into other parts. So it's easier to open up and then come back. But some people find it easier to drop within. So I'm going to show you a little video of so what drops is a kind of globe of awareness. So a knowing self-essence or local awake awareness drops like an invisible bubble. So the center isn't using attention like you would use attention from the small mind or the manager or the meditator to your breath. Are you aware of your breath? Yes, I'm aware of my breath. From here, literally the center of who you are drops into self-essence, into self-presence, aliveness of your body, and then goes within the core self, which opens up. So I'm going to see if I can, it's kind of see if I can share this screen with you here. Try this here. Okay. And we're just going to, it's just a minute or so. Did it work? I don't think it worked. You see anything? See if that worked.
Loch, we just see a black screen.
Uh-huh.
Oh, there you are. Great.
Okay, everyone see that?
Yeah.
So Holly, give me a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
You look
good.
great.
All right. So here we go. So this is the dropping from head to heart space. Yeah. Here we go. So this is a little visual, silly image with me. Okay. So a little funky psychedelic background, but that's the sense, is that the hands aren't pushing the awareness down. The awareness is dropping by itself with the awareness having intentionality, and the hands are just marking it. So you could use your hands, or you could just feel it, unhook, step back from this part, and then drop and feel your jaw from within your jaw, feel your throat from within your throat, feel your heart space from within your heart space. And let me know, Holly, if this video goes and I can switch. Okay. So let's try that. Yeah. So just finding a comfortable way of sitting, eyes open or closed, and just being aware of where you're listening from this normal committee or ego manager or thinker, and just find that that me, find that sense of me. Oh, this is me. Oh, I am trying to do this exercise, right? Oh, should I try to do it? No, I don't have to do it. Okay, so find that I that just watched the video and is trying to understand, and feel that you can be aware of that part of you, location, felt sense, and then ask that part if it'll give you a little space And then just feel like you're opening to become aware of that part from this awake space. And just again, notice that what was the observer is now the observed. And then feel as if that local awareness, which is the focusing element, the new center of your consciousness, can drop down and be aware of your subtle body. Be aware of your jaw and smile, from your jaw and smile, so that the subject and object feel like they're happening in the same place. Feel as if your awareness can feel that aliveness, effervescence, space, and awareness from within your throat. So there's a direct perception. You don't have to go up to thought to know. You can feel directly. You don't have to look down from the thinker, the manager center in the middle of your head. And if you do pop back up, just unhook and drop. So feel that new centerless center, that new awareness that notices your subtle body, and then drop below your neck so that this self-awareness is aware of your body directly from within your body. So feel that aliveness, heat, cold, space, and awareness that knows your body directly from within. And then go kind of behind and below that emotional heart until you find this safe space of the heart, like a door, open space. So it's not your physical heart, your emotional heart, your heart chakra, or your dantian. It touches all those. It's this open space. And let the awareness go deep within this space, this self-essence, this awareness, deep within the atoms, to find that space that's awake, that open-hearted presence. Just let go and let be, without going to thought to know, without going to sleep to rest. Drop into this rest that's deeper than sleep and yet wide awake. Loving, free, safe. Just hang out there in the space that's not a part, but that because you now notice the self-essence that's within, notice that it has no boundary, so that it's equally within. And that same self-essence is all around, to the side. And you can even feel back through the middle of your heart space, behind your back, until you notice that awareness has your back. So feel this field of awareness, this field of self-essence that you're aware of, that has this aliveness, open-hearted presence, interbeing, ground of being, that's open, has no boundary in its essential nature, and yet discovers an effortless awareness that's already awake without your help. Just being aware from this spacious presence that's equally spacious and pervasive. It's arising from awakeness like an ocean of awareness that arises as your body and is connected to everybody. So being aware of this, as this, and then from this, welcoming from this new view and this new you, just abiding, residing, interbeing. Welcoming, welcoming. So just noticing if your eyes are closed, just feel that all sense doors can be open, equal rights to all senses, so that you feel alive and embodied and here as well as spacious. And then opening your eyes so you feel that you're not projecting onto the world. There's just this awareness that's interconnected, and that you're aware of any thoughts, feelings, and parts that arise to this open-hearted awareness, as if you're supported by something greater than yourself. And then there's this loving presence that feels this compassion toward all parts, feels this unconditional loving matrix of love, okayness and friendliness, bliss, safety, non-fear, non-worry, non-shame in the self-essence that could be with any parts that have these feelings without blending. So just feel that you're spacious enough so you're not needing to create a manager. So staying home, and now you could move your hands. In fact, so from here, just allow the intelligence of yourself to stretch. So just don't think about what you need to stretch. Just let the intelligence of your body, if you want to stand up, and just let, almost like what's called spontaneous qigong. It's called wagong. Just let the awareness come into energy or chi or prana, and then kind of micro release and embody, so that you're in this flow consciousness, right? Stay home. Notice any parts that are self-conscious that arise about dancing, as if you just don't care, but another part cares. That can come up. Just include that and see how you feel. So what do you notice from here? So let me see. Anybody would like to speak from here? So it's almost like you drop into heart mind, and now you can see out of the eyes of your heart. You receive with your eyes like a periscope that goes to this boundless heart, this self-essence, self-energy, self-embodiment, self-leadership, that welcomes and doesn't have to create a manager in order to be here, to type, to move, to talk, to walk. And then if you do, you pop back up and learn to return. So somebody says joy, there are layers over layers of comprehension. Yeah, so that's like the wisdom mind starts to see from this view, expanding, free floating, and then ocean and waves. So that's exactly right. contracted, expansive, and then ocean and wave. So it goes out and comes back and includes. Ended up more in the solar plexus area. Yes, is that okay? Yes, some people find the heart mind is a little deeper in the, what's called the Kath or the Dantian or the Hara. That's great. That's actually the physical center of the body and somewhat kind of an energetic center. Belly brain, so that's good. I felt love for others, but did not feel loved or held by anything. Okay, so that's good. So that's part of it. Feel love for others. So now there's the receiving. So when you plug in, unplug from conditioning, either going this way or that way, plug into the open-hearted, something greater than yourself, and then just notice that there's this awareness that's effortlessly aware without your help. That's always been here, that's like an ocean or like a support, and just feel that new ground, boundless ground, and that begins to be the beginning of support. Joy, amusement, laughter, feeling I can expand without fear of reprisal. Yeah. So, obviously, there are parts of us protectors that say, don't go out of your mind. The classic things that you've heard all your life. Don't go out of your mind. Don't become nobody. Don't lose control. So you've got to let go of control. You got to go out of your mind. You've got to, be nobody in order to discover true self that is who you are, that is connected to the nature of your mind, that's a smarter, optimal mind, and that has choice or intentionality, isn't just passive. So, but you got to go from the small system. So there's protectors that say, what are you, crazy? Or scare you back to your mind or whatever. So just notice them, thank them for their protection, ask them to check it out. Just watch from a balcony or a waiting room, and then just let them know, I'm just going to the kitchen to get some food. I'll be right back. I'm just going to get the love and be the love. And now, what do you think of this? And when you come back and the scared part, you can ask the scared part or the protected part to check it out. What do you think about this kind of love and joy and connection and view? And they'll start to go like, oh, all right, that just took a little while, and let's do it again. They'll start to get on board, or they need to be worked with from self. Then that becomes, you don't want to deny that. You can then start to use that as a trailhead, to be aware of that. What's that part afraid of? What are its concerns? Start to work with feeling it. It may lead you to another part that's more exiled and more afraid in general. Let that part feel the self, but finding the way to not stop just because you get some pushback. Keep working with that. Just like the body is breathed, you feel like the body is being danced. Yeah, beautiful. Safety and trust. Yeah, so this kind of ground of being, by moving out of the safety of the smart scanning mind. I got to be safe. What's the problem? How do I stay safe? What do I do? Draw open, drop. And there's like a Tai Chi master safety. There's like I could respond to anything, physically, mentally, emotionally, from this greater capacity. I struggle with resistance from a part or parts that go into self and thinking escalate. So maybe that you go into self-like part that then starts to try to figure it out or be smart about it. So when you're in self essence has no thinking. Self essence is awareness based. It could use thought, but it's contentless, awareness-based knowing that's prior to thinking. What thinking is made of, as expression of it, its intelligence, and its wisdom, mind beyond thinking. So that's one of the markers is of self-essence. So if you've never felt love, compassion, would it be from another, would it be harder to access this felt sense? Or do you believe that no matter what you can tap into in this felt sense, doesn't that felt sense come from an experience of it prior to your life, for example? Yeah, so no, this is one of the similar premises, both of internal family systems and wisdom traditions, is this is not the kind of love, this is not the bonding love, this is not the love of personal love. This is transpersonal love. This is love of that's regardless of, having worked with, and others have worked with people who had severe trauma, complex trauma, no caretakers. And when they're aware of that traumatized part, they're aware of a part that wants to get better, they're aware, and then are asked, who's aware of those two parts? They say, well, I am. Well, so it's possible to find this essential love, which is not the same category as personal love or even compassion with a small c, or it's greater than and more essential, and it feels different. And so that's important question. Thank you for that. So some parts are protective, spacing out, disorienting. Yeah, so that's those are protective parts, and you want to just welcome them in, thank them for that, and just do some more subtle exploration or find a door that's maybe more grounded way of finding it. But they're welcome, all those parts. It takes what it takes for everyone. Energy arising, dancing energy. Consciousness bubble feels more like many bubbles. Aware of opening, feeling this, and then losing it, and using the awareness of that to be aware of the present. So so there's a kind of, dance of being blended, and the habit of parts-based knowing is so strong that, when you glimpse or recognize and realize self, and then include just getting that familiarized feeling so that you can learn to return, what that is, because the habit is going to draw you back to parts-based system, and it's a training. So that's the training, is finding that, losing it, and then saying to yourself, no big surprise that you lost it because the habit is so strong. Just re-recognize and return, learn to return, and then train to remain, and you train to be the self. And what happens is you'll get this kind of reinforcement from positive feelings of joy and love and bliss and healing that will start to make the neuronal networks stronger as you do it. But initially it can be slow to train. You can glimpse many times, takes consistency. That's why I'm doing this kind of 12-week course coming up that has people give you some of this kind of training and guidance and questions and answers, and then have you choose to do glimpse practices once or more a day for those 12 weeks, and then have a peer group support. And the people who have been doing this is just, remarkable. They're living from self-leadership more and more. It's possible. And all that to say, it's really initially can be difficult or unique, but it's not that. It's very available. So trusting and letting go, feeling spaciousness. Going to the kitchen to get some love. What do you think of this as the quote of the day? Yeah, that sounds good. Just go into the kitchen. Just let the scared parts know. Like, where are you going? Don't space out. Don't leave me. I'm just going to the kitchen to get some love. I'm coming right back. I was like, okay, all right, well, all right. Just wait there. Just stay in. Just here's something to, keep yourself busy. Ready? And then, right? So letting go into being love without conditions, unconditional love, love without conditions. That's the basic initial healing feeling. It's even a little beyond compassion. When you get to self-essence, which is pure awareness, comes into self-energy, and then you're aware of a part that's fearful or angry or rageful, and then you're just like, oh, I see you, I know you, you're me, I get that there's no bad part, and you don't have to change. Like, that's not the goal. The first healing is unconditional love, just as you are. I'm here. I'm interested. I'm listening. That's the majority of it. Is not even the unburdening is the secondary, but being self with parts is 51%. Then unconditionally loving toward them without wanting them to change is another 25%. So I don't know, I just made that up. That sounds good though. But the primary thing is being self so you can be self to parts. Then the experience of self to parts starts to feel that you're not immediately trying to fix them, heal them, change them, but you're just really are same. Yeah. So teary feelings, such a sense of beauty. Feels like a massive empty screen that my body and protective parts are showing up in. So like an empty, sky or so there's other things to talk about, but I'll try to stay with some other questions, but I'm just staying with the simple theme today. There's plenty of other interesting stuff that I'll talk about in other feelings supported by the now. So feeling that quality of self-essence is timeless and here isn't referencing the past to be here and safe, isn't projecting 1 second into the future, and isn't stuck in the present. Is in this awareness that can be aware of past, present, and future, which is this nowness, here-ness, awareness, beingness. Yeah. All right, so let's try this the same one with no words, and use your hands. So follow, if you want to follow me, let's do it. This is the mime version. So beyond words, yeah. So just having fun with unhooking or unblending, being aware, dropping, opening, unplugging from conditioning, and then into self-essence. Self-essence as pure contentless awareness arises as self-energy and ocean and wave. And then there's a sense of this ground of being that's spacious, pervasive, interconnected, that doesn't have to reform a manager and can be aware of any parts, including your body as a part. Yeah, does anyone feel, what is that like to feel when you're spacious and pervasive, that this field of your body in which this part has parts within it is a part of who you are. So the age you are today is not who you are. You're this unborn, undying, timeless, ageless essence, no? That is arising as this precious human form with energetic patterns, sensations, instincts like animals, parts within the psyche. But the main sense is there's something that isn't coming and going that's aware of this physical matter, energy, and space. So what do you notice about that view? Parts exist within a loving essence. Yes, I can experience the body as a part, pure energy flow. Relax, you might, yeah, okay. Kundalini, some Kundalini and jhana states from Kundalini is the more energy, jhana is the more stillness states. So those come and go. Those are states within self. Super relaxed is called jhana states. More the focus on the energy, particularly the could be Kundalini or, but that's all happening within self. Oops. Okay, I think I froze and then unfroze. All right, so shall we have a everything, every experience welcome, so familiar, déjà vu. So this is the sense that most people or many people have had this sense of self in childhood or sometime before, but you didn't know it was the self. You just thought it had to do with the environment, yeah, or the good conditions or the people or the places or the things that led you into recognizing yourself. So we're not just creating states, or like if you go walk in nature, most people drop into a sense of self while they're doing a simple task, but they're focused on the place and they feel like they have to go back to that place and do that activity with that support. So this is a pointer saying, regardless of where you are, what the environment, what the situation, even difficult, triggering situation, and sometimes, particularly in emergency situations, you can, once you learn the basics of how to unblend, recognize, abide, familiarize, include, you can be with any triggered parts or triggered people who are in front of you, using your name from their firefighters and their triggered parts that you can then respond rather than react from self. Even if your parts are triggered by them, you can be with your parts and with them. So it's this multi-dimensional potential. It takes some practice. So why don't we take our our lunch break or food break here? Could be dinner, could be breakfast. Breakfast for California, lunch for Midwest and East Coast, and dinner for Europe and Asia is midnight.